If you've been following along with these photography videos, you've heard me say several times that light is the most important aspect of photos. I would say that the second most important aspect is composition. Composition refers to how your photo is arranged. The composition of your photo will direct your viewer's eye. If you compose your image well, the viewer's eye will be drawn to the subject of the photo, and if you don't compose your image well, the viewer's eye will be left feeling confused and underwhelmed. Let's talk about the rule of thirds. You've probably heard the saying, rules are meant to be broken, and the rule of thirds is no exception. However, it's important to understand and master the rule before you go breaking it. So, what is the rule of thirds? Imagine dividing an image into thirds, with 2 horizontal lines and 2 vertical lines, so that you have 9 parts. You want to put your points of interest on one of the 4 places that the lines intersect, or on the lines themselves to balance your image. The viewer's eye naturally tends to be drawn to one of those spots, so if you put your points of interest there, it will be easier for your viewer to make sense of the photo. A point of interest is what you want your viewer's eye to notice first, or land on last, usually the subject of the photo. Here are some examples of the rule of thirds. You can see that, in every one of these photos, the subject of the image is on one of the 4 points that our imaginary lines intersect on. In landscape shots, you should place the horizon line on one of the horizontal lines in your graph, whether it is the top one or the bottom one. In portraits, you typically want your subject's eyes to be near one of the intersecting points. This helps guide the viewer's eye through the image to the subject's eye, which are typically the focal point of portraiture. Now, when do you break this rule? Sometimes, you may want to put your subject right in the center of the photo instead of off to the side. The best time to center your subject is when the photo is symmetrical. If the image is not symmetrical on both sides, centering your image is going to make the image feel chaotic, like you are throwing your viewer into the image with no roadmap. You may want to create that jarring effect, or you may want to emphasize the calm symmetry of an image. In either case, centering the subject is a useful method. Another decision you make when composing your image is whether you shoot horizontally or vertically. Typically, you will shoot horizontally when shooting landscapes and vertically when taking portraits. This is another rule that was made to be broken, though. Try shooting both horizontally and vertically when shooting a subject, and then compare the 2 images later. Sometimes both compositions will work equally well, but usually one will jump out as better than the other. In the following photo, taken by Irving Penn, do you think that the photo would be better if it was horizontal? Why do you think he chose to compose the photo like this? If it were horizontal, you would see more of the elephants. This would be really cool, because elephants are really cool. However, they would distract the viewer from the subject of the photo, which is the woman. It is likely that Irving Penn shot this photo vertically to draw the viewer's eye to the woman instead of the elephants. Next, I want to talk about framing and the role it plays in composition. When positioning your subject in the frame of your viewfinder, try not to cut any important information out of the photo. The way that the image is cropped will drastically change it. Don't just take one photo of your subject and call it a day. Try lots of different crops. Another rule to keep in mind when framing your image is to have your subject look inwards, towards the center of the image. Our eyes naturally tend to follow the direction a subject is looking. And why would you want your viewer to quit looking at your photo? Placing the subject off to the side of your photo, looking inwards, will keep your viewer's eye happily at home inside your photo. You can see the difference it makes in these Angry Bird screenshots. The first image is the typical Angry Bird screen. The artist of the game used the rule of thirds quite nicely, with the Angry Bird looking into the middle of the image. In the second photo, the Angry Bird is centered, and it is a bit disconcerting. There isn't enough room where he is looking to keep our eyes from drifting out of the image. In this last image, the Angry Bird is now looking outward, not inward, and we have a similar issue. Our eyes want to follow where he is looking, and are led right out of the image. You can also use lines to lead the viewer's eye through the photo. Lines can be used to create depth, for instance, if it is leading into the photo. The lines can easily lead your viewer's eye out of the photo as well, so be aware of where the lines are pointed. You want your leading lines to lead the eye to the subject of the photo. For people that read left to right, leading lines beginning on the left side and leading to the right can feel natural, since they often scan images from left to right as well. The line should lead your viewer's eye through the photo, ending in a specific place. To recap, the rule of thirds refers to the imaginary grid that divides your image into 9 parts. Generally, you want to position your subject on one of the intersecting points of this grid, but you can also center the subject. Your photo will look totally different depending on whether it is horizontal or vertical, and how you frame the photo will play a big role in where your viewer's eye goes. If you have any questions about composition, let us know in the comments, and thanks for watching.